We have talked about Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara. Now let us continue to look at the first sentence in the Heart Sutra. Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, while deeply immersed in Prajna Paramita. So, deeply immersed, we have talked about the three modes of gaining wisdom, acquiring wisdom. So using that concept is one way to explain what deeply immersed mean. Have you been deeply immersed in something? You're so totally involved in something. So that's all you ever think about. That's all you ever do. Your whole body and mind is devoted to it. That is deeply immersed. When you are deeply immersed, when you are in learning something, you can probably learn really well in a relatively shorter time. When you are deeply immersed in a task, you can probably perform the best at your best. So when we're learning the Prajna Paramita, when we're learning the Heart Sutra, let us set a time to try to be deeply immersed as well. For example, by listening wisdom, contemplating wisdom, and cultivating wisdom. Now, deeply immersed in Prajna Paramita, that's what the Bodhisattva was involved in. What is Prajna Paramita? Now, Prajna is wisdom. It's a particular kind of wisdom. It is the wisdom of emptiness. Wisdom of emptiness. That is a crucial concept in the Buddhist teaching, but it is also profound, and it will take time to master this Prajna wisdom. What does Shifu mean by emptiness? Well, let us look at it from two angles, two perspectives. First, emptiness of a person. Second, emptiness of phenomena. So, emptiness of a person. What does it mean to say a person is empty? Of course, that person means every person, including myself, yourself, the self. So emptiness is admittedly a strange way to perceive people. But when you correctly understand it, it is a powerful way to perceive people. It is actually crucial to perceive the true nature of a person. Now, Shifu will give an overview of what emptiness of a person means in this section, but throughout the rest of the Heart Sutra, we'll go into a lot more details. So there are three aspects, three approaches that we can use to understand the emptiness of a person. The first is impermanence. The second is interdependence. And the third is incomplete ownership. You may call it the 3I. First, impermanence. A person, whether you're referring to the body or the mental state of a person, is it permanent or is it impermanent? Well, obviously, both body and mind are impermanent. They go through changes. Your own body, when you were a baby, just born, looks nothing like the way you are now, right? Every few years, there are some visible changes occur in your body. You do know that the cells in your body die by the millions and millions every day. New cells are generated every day as well. Even your brain cells, they do die a lot. They change. Your physical body changes all the time. All the time means every moment. There are changes in your body. It doesn't stay the same. So if you were to say, this is my body, what are you talking about? What are you referring to when you say, my body? Is that a fixed thing? Is there a permanent, fixed, well-defined thing called your body? Or is the so-called your body more like a dynamic process, like the water in a river that is ever flowing, ever changing? Looking at it from far away, looks like the same thing, same river, but then it's never the same river, right? In Western philosophy, you also have heard the saying, you can never step into the same river twice. Well, same thing with your body. You don't ever have the same body twice. The body is not a thing. It is a flow, a process, ever changing. What about your mind, your mental state, your thoughts, your ideas? Are they fixed, or can you change in your thinking? Well, obviously, most people do change. They change in the way they feel about certain things. They change in their understanding of other people or situations. We do acquire new information. We do change and get rid of old thoughts. So is a person a thing? Or is it more of a dynamic, ever-changing process? Have you ever thought about a person as a process? If you have, then you are getting closer to understanding the true nature of a person. So the opposite of that is to think of somebody as a fixed thing, a fixed entity, something that is the same 5 years ago and today. That would be a misperception of a person. If you think yourself as the same, you would also be misperceiving who you really are. So that's the first angle we talk about emptiness of a person. Emptiness means not a fixed, permanent entity. And yet we do consciously or subconsciously think of ourselves as the same. That is why we get upset when somebody humiliated you 5 years ago. And today you think about it, you still get upset. Oh, you humiliated me 5 years ago. When I get a chance, I'm gonna get back at you. Wait, the you 5 years ago, where is it? Where is that humiliation? Where are those words? Where are those feelings? Are they the same? Is it the same you? Are you sure? is worthy of contemplation, isn't it? It's useful to meditate on this, the impermanence of the self, the impermanence of person. Now, of course, impermanence, if you think of it as something passive, oh, that's terrible. No, not necessarily. It is because of impermanence that we grow. It is because of impermanence that we change. It is because of impermanence that we can improve. Every day we can have an updated version of ourselves, can we? If we want to. The second angle is interdependence. The opposite of interdependence is to think that you, a person, is an individual, separate from the world that we live in. This is me, this is the world. We are separate. I'm an independent individual. That seems obvious. But if we try to examine more closely, it becomes less obvious. For example, your physical body, is it a distinct, separate entity from the world? Do you eat and drink every day? Now, before you take the food and water, would you say that food and water is part of you? Part of who you are? You would not. But once you swallowed it, it is inside your body. Is that food and water part of you? What about a few hours later, when the food is broken down and some of the nutrients is carried to the rest of your body? So you see, the outside world, the so-called outside world, gets integrated into your body. And whenever you use the restroom, some part of you gets expelled outside. Again, it is like a river. It's not a fixed entity, your body. It is not that independent, is it? Can you actually draw a line that separates you from the rest of the world? A clearly defined boundary of what is you and what is not you? Every time you breathe, something from the world comes into you, becomes part of you. Every time you breathe out, something from part of you goes out. Can you actually cut it off? No. What about your mental state? Same thing. Do you actually have an individual, independent thought? Or is every single one of your thoughts influenced by others? Why don't we think about that? So the independent entity concept of I or person, upon deeper examination, is also false. The third angle that we look at is incomplete ownership. This is my cell phone. It belongs to me. I have ownership over it. I can do what I want with it. That is ownership. This is my body. I own it. It is mine. This is my house. I own it. It is my house. This is my wife. This is my children. They belong to me. Oh, really? Is that really true? Upon deeper examination, do your children think that they belong to you? Do they listen to you all the time? What about your wife? Your husband? Does anybody in this world always listen to you? Do you actually have possession of anything in this world? Your car, let's say you paid for your car in full. You don't own any debt on your car. But the thing is, your car will break down one day when it is time. You don't have control over that, do you? You don't have complete control over that. What about your body? Look, I can raise my hand, I can put it down at my will. This is my body. I cannot do that with the cup. It is there, it just sit there. I cannot do that with the rock out there. So that's not part of me. This is part of me. Oh, really? Do you know that there are many parts, many organs in your body that doesn't listen to what you tell it to do? It just does its own thing. They just do their own thing. Isn't that right? Can you tell your heart to beat faster and slower at will? Can you tell yourself to stop breathing? Can you tell your liver and kidney to stop doing what it's doing, or to start doing what it's doing, to do it as you will, to function perfectly? No, you don't have full control of your body. You don't have full control of anything. Now, the key is full control. You do have some control, some influence. And what is that? That is the cause and conditions, the various conditions coming together to make something happen. Often you have a certain degree of control, of influence, but you don't have full ownership or full control of anything. Even the money you earn, you put in the bank. When inflation comes, you lose some of that value and you don't have much control over that. Right? Is there anything in this world, including your own body and your own thoughts? Do you own it? If Sufu said, do not think any thoughts for the next 10 minutes, then you'll be a great meditator. Can you do it? Probably not. So let's have a more realistic perception of what I am, what a person is. Okay? So these are some key aspects. We will explore these in more detail. The second type of emptiness is emptiness of phenomena. For example, water. What is water? Well, everybody knows what water is, right? Really? Do we actually know exactly what water is? Well, everybody has seen water. There's water in this cup. I drink it. And my thirst is quenched. That's great. I know what water is. No, we know what water is to a certain level. We don't know the full reality, the full nature of water. For example, what is the shape of water? No, it doesn't have a fixed shape, but it does have shape. Its shape changes according to environment conditions, temperature. Is water liquid? Well, yeah, it's liquid within some range of temperature. Below that, it becomes ice, a solid. Above that, it becomes steam. And in certain situations, it can become snow. Do you really know water? And then if you are in a chemical lab, you can turn water into oxygen and hydrogen. Something that water puts out fire, hydrogen and oxygen, they light up easily. How could that be? So do we know water? Water can turn into fire. So the quality that defines water is actually not fixed. So we say water is empty. The emptiness of phenomena. Physical phenomena or not physical phenomena. For example, if you get laid off from a job, that phenomena, that event is a terrible event. It's dukkha, it's suffering, right? Yeah, for now, it may be perceived as suffering. But for a long term, let's say 5 years later, you look back on it, maybe you change your mind. You say, oh, actually, that was not a bad thing. It was a good thing because it made me reflect, why did I get laid off and the other person doesn't get laid off? Why am I not important enough for the company? What have I done? What has he done that I didn't do? Maybe you look at this and you learn from it, and then you make yourself a more useful person. Or maybe you learn something from the experience, or maybe you even change career path and you find something else that you're truly motivated, that's something else that's truly meaningful to you. And if you did not get laid off, maybe get stuck in a job for another 10 years. So looking back 5 years from now, that what you thought was a bad thing was dukkha, actually it was sukha, was actually happiness. So that is the emptiness of event, of phenomena. It's not necessarily good or bad. So these are just some examples. We'll explore that later. Now, lastly, paramita. When we have the wisdom of emptiness, it begins to change how we look at ourselves, change how we look at people, and change how we look at events. We just used the example. If something bad happens to you, can you look at it in a different way, in a more fluid way, because it's empty? And right now, you may think that's bad, but in English, you would say there's a silver lining beneath each cloud, right? Yeah, that's the same idea. It's the emptiness of phenomena. It's the Prajna wisdom. Something bad happened to you, a wise person can find something good out of it, can turn it into something good later on down the line. Something limiting about yourself. You say, oh, I can't do this. But I is empty, which means when different conditions change, I will change too. I am a dynamic process. I'm not a fixed thing. I'm empty. Because water is empty, it can be put into any container. If the shape of water is fixed, you cannot put it into different kinds of containers. Because I am empty, I can actually change myself to accomplish things I did not think it was possible. I can even turn suffering, dukkha, into sukha, turn suffering into happiness. That is the power of emptiness of a person, emptiness of phenomena. So when we have a deep understanding of Prajna wisdom, and we use this perspective to re-examine everything we are familiar with in life, we begin to see new opportunities, new perspectives. We begin to think out of the box. We begin to explore limitless possibilities. That is the quality of Prajna wisdom. So we can then use that wisdom to help others. How many others? Countless others. Unlimited number of others, to help them gain that fresh perspective, to bring themselves out of suffering and achieve happiness. When we do that, help countless others, that is the practice of Paramita. So Prajna, help myself to end suffering. Prajna Paramita, help others, countless others, to end their suffering. That is the practice of Prajna Paramita. Now let us review what we learned in this section. Deeply immersed in Prajna Paramita. What is to be deeply immersed? Have you ever been deeply immersed in any task, any job, any endeavor, fully devoted in that effort? And when you do, what is the result? When we take our life, the happiness in our life seriously, we want to be deeply immersed in gaining that prajna wisdom. How does the bodhisattva get deeply immersed? Shifu talked about the three modes of wisdom. What are they? And prajna, or the wisdom of emptiness, the empty nature of a person and the empty nature of phenomena. So we talk about the three angles we can examine. What does it mean? The empty nature of a person. Impermanence. Have we made a mistake of thinking I is permanent? And if we do not think of myself as permanent, and that's okay, what kind of possibilities does it open up? Interdependence. Have we made a mistake of thinking I am an independent individual? And what kind of problems does it bring when we think that way? And if we think of ourselves as interdependent beings, we are in connection with the world and others. How does that change our perception of I and a person? Incomplete ownership. How often have we become very upset because things did not turn out the way we wanted to? We were operating under the misguided belief of complete ownership. Things should happen the way I wanted. People should be nice. Results should be good. Without carefully examining the conditions that change and shape the result. When we do, then we will see the truth of incomplete ownership. We gave example of emptiness of phenomena. Can you give more examples? And we will apply this wisdom of emptiness to helping others. That is the practice of paramita, using prajna, and therefore prajna paramita.